The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about it. 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 On the Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited to have my guest tonight, Jonathan Bender. And we're going to be talking about choosing connection over protection. Let me pull him up. Hello, Jonathan. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Vera?
I am great. I am so glad you're here. And I'm going to take a few minutes and share with our audience a little bit about Jonathan Bender. Jonathan Bender has an MS and an MFA, the creator of the Whole Speak method, has trained thousands of executives, professionals, coaches, and entrepreneurs on 5 continents to grow their voice and presence, both for their personal life and as confident, authentic, and dynamic speakers for over 28 years. The founder of Whole Speak and the creator of the Whole Speak method, he teaches an integrative, holistic approach that consistently transforms nerves into confidence and helps anyone become a dynamic, inspiring presence in their lives. Clients include executives and directors at Google, HP, Meta, and Uber, as well as countless coaches, trainers, and speakers. Jonathan is also a theater professional as well as a poet. Oh, you're going to have to share some of your poetry. And holds 2 graduate degrees, a Master of Science in Performance Studies and Speech Communication, as well as a Master in Fine Art in Theater. So you can see he is well equipped to help others become professional in speaking, but also to help in better communications in their personal lives as well. So, Jonathan, I'm going to give you the floor, and I want you to just kind of share your journey. How did you acquire your purpose and your passion? And tell us a little bit about how things were for you as a child.
Sure. So I would say growing up, I had the experience of feeling fairly invisible, disempowered, and dissociated out of my body. So I was bullied from ages about 6 to 18, or 6 to 17 or so. So a really long time, roughly 12 years. And that coincided with when my family moved from New York to Arizona when I was 6 or 6.5 or so. And it was just not a good place, Phoenix at that time, for a New York Jew. There were some few Jews there, but I did not fit in. I probably had an accent and did not have a sense of self-empowerment and being able to speak up for myself. And I think that with that kind of pain and difficulty, on some level, it compelled me to want to find my own voice and to have a level of self-expression. And so when I was a freshman in high school, I joined the speech and debate team. And I was actually kind of joining a semester late, and they mostly kind of did debate. And I was asked to say, well, why don't you just start off something easy, this poetry interpretation thing? I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is. Sure. and I did terribly. And so it was kind of this performance, public speaking, working with poetry, and then but I got really obsessed by it, and then very quickly started doing like pretty well, but never had really a lot of good coaching. And I just loved kind of creating these talks and these basically performance pieces to be able to kind of find my own voice and expression, and found that I had a knack for it. And then started doing theater and acting in high school and doing shows. I directed my first show when I was 18 years old, and then went on to Berkeley and studied theater and anthropology, and was on the speech team again for basically the entire time that I was there. And again, never had really good coaching. I just kind of paid a lot of dues and tried and tried. And I could count the really good coaching number of hours I had probably on one hand, and in terms of the number of hours. And it was mostly self-learned. And I finally figured it out and got really good. And by the time I was a senior in college, I was one of the top speakers in California, and known nationally, and was doing pretty well. And out of college, I was doing theater at night, acting, directing, writing, solo performance, and then kept being asked to coach high school and college speech teams because I had a good reputation as a competitor. And first I was like, nah, maybe I'm done with it. And finally I said, well, okay, I'll give it a try. And right away, my students became state champions and national finalists, and were very, very good because I had culled together all of this technique from theater and all the things I had tried over the years, and different types of techniques. And so I did that for some time. And then I went on and kind of wanted to do something bigger. I got graduate degrees, first a Master of Science in Communication and Performance Studies, and then my Master of Fine Art in Theater. And with that, created the Whole Speak method. And it's basically based on everything that I learned, which is threefold, which was my own journey. So first of all, what I mentioned when I was growing up is the performance technique, acting, movement, vocal work, and both beginning and then like very advanced techniques actually that highly experienced performers know, and simplifying them into a system that anyone could learn, to learn things that performers often have a hard time with. Like they don't naturally have self-expression or confidence or presence. And these are things that people often think you have or you don't, and that's not true. They can be learned. Second of all is the speaking technique. And what I found is that if you see a lot of people who coach speaking, then if you look at people they've trained, often if you look at 3 people in a row who they've trained, you can start to see the technique. And it looks weird and artificial. And I believe that speaking should be organic. It's how do we show up when we are confident and centered and in our power and we're open to being seen. And the third is something that also started when I was 14, which was personal and spiritual growth. So that's also the age when I entered onto a spiritual path, had different, very powerful spiritual experiences, and started to have different type of awakenings. And so this growth that I did over the years of like now decades of different types of inner growth work is the other pillar of how I teach. But with all of those, it's how do we show up in our power and our center, in our aliveness and in our authenticity, so that we can make a bigger impact as a speaker, but really just how do we show up in our lives?
I love it. We have so much to talk about. And the thing is, I grew up being bullied and ridiculed and made fun of. So I can so relate to your story. And I remember reading what Eleanor Roosevelt said when she said, no one can make you feel inferior without your permission. And that was one of the impetus to help me recognize that it didn't matter what other people said, thought, or felt about me. All that mattered was how I saw, felt about myself, and what I said to myself. So we have some interest there. And the theater, I love the theater. I didn't get involved in theater until college, when someone contacted me and said, Vera, I need you to play Tituba on in the Crucible. And I was like, I'm not an actor. I can't do that. And she pulled me in, and I had rave reviews and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I love doing this. So I can understand. And I really want to, you shared those pillars for your, what you do. I want you to repeat them so that I can put them in the chat because you said it once, but repetition is great. So I'm
Absolutely.
going to,
So, yeah. So, number one, organic or transparent speaking techniques. But that there's technique involved, but how do you just show up? How do you move and gesture and have your voice and everything nonverbal communication wise? Is how do we show up when we are just ready and in our power and open? Number two is performance
wait,
techniques.
wait a minute, slow down because I'm writing this down.
Okay. So the performance techniques of acting, movement, and vocal work. And the way I do
Okay.
it also, they're all embodied techniques as well.
Okay. And I'm going to
So
put this up on the screen as well. And you said the performance technique is next.
mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
And
third is the inner growth work,
inner growth work. And I want
personal
to
and
talk,
spiritual growth.
okay, let's talk about that because oftentimes people want to speak. They want to get, even though we recognize that the number one fear is public speaking, the
Right.
number seven fear is dying. People would rather die than stand in front of a group of people. And so, teaching them the techniques that you offer, let's start with that inner. And I need to write it down. So, you said that inner,
The inner growth work,
let's
or you
talk
call it
about,
the inner transformation work.
I like that.
So
So, how,
I'll say for an example, something I always start off with, and when I take people through my like main online training, Clean Your Voice, is self-compassion. Is something that's powerful because often we think that we need to show up a certain way, and we're of course our biggest inner critics. Inner critic is our biggest. We're hardest on ourselves, and instead to start to reorient and to change our relationship to ourselves, to have kindness and acceptance and cultivate greater self-love, which for so many people is very, very difficult. So,
very difficult.
right. And so when something happens that goes wrong, whether that's on stage or in your life, or what I call the stages of your life, is do we immediately get self-critical, or can we soften and have a level of kindness, which lets us be a lot more resourced and present to actually be able to handle the moment more adeptly and skillfully?
Yes. So, what would you tell a person that needs to better understand that inner growth? What would you suggest how do you suggest they start that process?
Specifically in relationship to public speaking or in general?
In both. Both.
It really depends on personality type, because there are some who have a really hard time, afraid to look inward, because I think when you do, they think, well, what if I don't like what I see? Or I find my inner critic has a lot to say there, or I'm gonna have to look at things that I did that I'm not at peace with, which could be things they did, or maybe things you didn't do, things that you wish you'd done in your life that you didn't step up. And so it's understanding, first of all, that this is simply part of being human, being the human experience. And we want to begin to relate to ourselves differently. And so when we actually look at the topic for today of choosing connection over protection, are we trying to protect and bolster this kind of sense of self and strength against ourselves? And so it's how do we choose vulnerability and interconnection? How do we connect with ourselves more is really number one, the way that I see it.
How do we connect with ourselves more? And awareness precedes change. And once we become aware of techniques and processes that will help us transform our lives, then we can begin to make those changes, because you can't change what you do not acknowledge. And you talked about a lot of times people feeling vulnerable and feeling like they're afraid of what they see within themselves. But in order for that transformation to occur, you got to look at yourself. You got to love yourself. You can't love other people if you don't love yourself.
It's an interesting thing when you say, well, we have to acknowledge it. So when I look at it, I say, well, who is acknowledging it? And what I mean by that is what part of ourselves we look at ourselves is the inner critic acknowledging it. And so then we're really hard on ourselves. Or do we cultivate that from a greater place of presence? So I do a lot with awareness techniques and very influenced by Buddhism. And just to be able to watch the patterns that arise, say, oh, I see how I'm being a jerk to myself right there. Or I can feel the breeze against my skin. That we start to cultivate a greater field of awareness, which creates greater equanimity, less criticalness, which allows us to actually see far more accurately. And then from that place, we can create a greater shift. If what I just said, by the way, for anyone watching, feels kind of like, what? A little abstract, then there are different practices like voice dialogue, internal family systems, others that look at the personality not as just this is who I am, but as a set of many different me's, of different personalities. And so, and these are things that are often thought of as, the way I like to think of it at least, as protection mechanisms. That
And
the
is
identity.
does that tie in with Maslow's hierarchy to some extent, perhaps?
No, I haven't thought of it that way. Uh, I look, basically, I think if you look at the identity as a set of protection mechanisms, it's like, this happened when I was young and I don't want that ever to happen again. So I'm going to learn how to protect myself and take care of myself, which could be I'm going to hide and not show up, or I'm going to be in your face and strong and defensive in that situation when that type of thing arises. So if the identity is a set of protection mechanisms that is designed to keep you safe, I'm going to say that one more time because it's a lot. The identity is a set of protection mechanisms designed to keep you safe, then that goes against vulnerability and stops you from having the connection in your life that you want.
Wow, beautiful. And the thing is, let's talk about some of those mechanisms, because some of those mechanisms are also misconceived behaviors that we embrace for protection, and people don't understand. I mean, and so many of them, like, for example, character assassination. Let's talk about that. People that do that, go ahead. I see you wanted to say something.
Well, what I would put that in is I would put a broad category of 6 things that we do.
Okay. Well, wait a minute. Let me.
And that
Okay.
first one, so that first one is part, so the first 3 are the ones that people will know more, which is fight, flight, and freeze. Survival mechanisms that we do when we don't feel safe. And so character assassination is a type of fight response. The inner critic is a type of fight response, but it's fight response turned inward toward yourself.
Yes.
So when we are there, like being defensive, attacking, saying no, like that is fight response. And I find that when I can remember that, it makes it easier when I feel threatened to realize, oh, that person, it's not personal. They are in fight response because on some level they feel threatened.
Yes. And oftentimes those threats, like you said, are their protection mechanisms to keep you from feeling the negativity or any, feeling that
Vulnerable.
people are against vulnerable. That's the word.
Mhm.
Thank you. That's the word, vulnerable. All right. So the inner critic, the fight, flight, and freeze.
Right.
And
I'll say a word about each of them. So flight is when you're just being like, I'm just not going to show up. I'm going to excuse myself, not be there, and run away. Freeze response is the one that I see most commonly in public speaking. And that's the deer in the headlights, where you may not be able to think clearly because the blood is flowing away from the prefrontal cortex to other parts of the brain. You may have flushing, dry mouth, heart being out of your chest, and there's all this energy that has somewhere to go. And this is often what people are most afraid of in speaking, that this is going to happen, or they're going to have a panic attack. And what if I do, if I can't think? And there are ways to change that. So another one, so we fight, flight, freeze, but then the other three, which are kind of trauma responses. So one is fawn, which is going into pleasing mode, essentially. Like, let me take care of you. I'll check in and make sure you're okay. I'll keep it safe.
So the people pleaser.
Yeah. And then we kind of leave ourselves to then kind of take care of someone else. There's also faint, which is the kind of dissociative thing where you kind of may physically be there, but be kind of checked out. So, and then the last one is think or analyze, that we just kind of get in our heads and we're kind of thinking through it, but we're actually detached, or we're not fully connected in that present moment.
Wow. That's awesome. So your techniques help people to get past all of those things, to be more effective public speakers or professional speakers.
Yes, but it's more than that. It's also just, how do you show up in your life? So I've led events for Connection since 2010, and I did this a lot for networking events because I was going to a bunch of events back then, and what I found is that they all had something in common, which is that they were dreadful. That people didn't want to be there, or it was forced and salesy, and so there has to be something better. And so I started bringing together techniques from performance, because I was trained in ensemble physical theater. What that means is a group of people working together very intensely to create something. You have to be deeply connected with them. And so I took these techniques from that and from other sources and from the speaking work to start to create a whole methodology I call conscious networking, and that I've led innumerable so many times over the years of, I don't guess, up to 300 people many, many times. So, and we're going to say something.
Yeah, conscious networking.
Yeah.
Because I go to a lot of networking events also. As a matter of fact, I think that's where we met. But conscious networking, can you expound a little more on that?
Yeah. So, personally, I think of it within the framework of conscious business. I still run a meetup that's been around for a long time called Conscious Business Bay Area. And the way I think of conscious business, it's about being conscious about growing ourselves and about our impact in the world. And that, yes, we can make money, but it's also doing that. We want to have a positive impact. And so conscious networking is growing that self-awareness, that consciousness of ourselves, and showing up with authenticity, aliveness, like being real, and also this level of connection and opening. So I also call it sometimes authentic networking or unconventional networking. And depending upon the frame, there can be a lot of play and movement. I also do the line, which is a little different. But we can start. So this kind of was a seed that started to plant. And I'll segue for a second, because I can't not, which is that I started to geek out about what connection is. Because looking back to my childhood, I had such a wound around connection. I felt so alone and isolated and disconnected. But you see this all the time and everywhere. And I think ultimately most people a lot of the time feel alone. And so I developed this framework over the years called the Path of Connection. And this is how I teach connection, whether it's for networking, whether it's for part of public speaking, or whether it's just for in your life. And there are two parts of it, which are interconnection and interconnection. If I try to connect with you and I am not connected with myself, I could be going into that pleasing fawn mode, or just kind of fake, or let me say the societal scripts that I have learned. Hi there, what do you do? And that everyone, like, no one wants to, I guess I have to answer that because that's the game. That's what we have to do. But instead, if we take the time And I do this constantly with groups, which is kind of radical, especially in more conventional settings, but is amazing, which is taking the time before we focus on connecting with each other to actually tune into ourselves. Like just to breathe, to feel our hearts, to ground, to connect with something greater than yourself, to find an intention that matches your values. So like people go in thinking, oh, I really want to sell my services. I need money. I need to do that. But it's stressful. It feels weird versus I want to serve.
Yes.
I'm going to trust that the right people are going to come to me by being generous, by caring, by showing up differently.
Yes. I love it. I love it. And I've got to go to a commercial right quick, and then we'll come back and continue this conversation. I'm loving this. This is great. This is stuff that people need to hear to understand. And this is not just about speaking, but it's about mindfulness, because that's really what you're talking about. Mindfulness, being in tune with who you are.
It's even beyond mindfulness, which I can talk about when we come back.
Okay, we'll talk about it when we come back. All right.
Hallelujah.
Hey there, Jason McNamara here, and I'm about to drop something truly game-changing your way. Are you tired of the same old 9-to-5 grind? Feeling stuck in obtaining the life you deserve and craving something more? Well, listen up, because I've got something you will not want to miss. Introducing the No More 9-to-5 Club Professional Membership, your ticket to freedom and success in the entrepreneurial world. With our professional membership, you'll get access to weekly coaching sessions, pre-recorded trainings, and a vibrant community of fellow game changers. You get access to technology that will allow you to automate passive income streams, as well as unlock all of our expert-led trainings in the back office so you know where to go for good advice when you need it. You will also use the club to build up a residual income stream with a 2-tier 33% affiliate commission unlocked at this level, allowing you to help people help themselves while generating a residual passive income stream for yourself. And here's the kicker. For a limited time, you can unlock all of this just for a $1.11 donation to our club foundation.
I like this one.
Your first month is on us. So what's holding you back? Click the link below, make your donation, and let's start building the life and business of your dreams together. Here at the No More 9-to-5 Club, we're all about turning dreams into reality and smashing through those glass ceilings.
That's what I'm talking about, Jake.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, we've got the tools and support you need to thrive and evolve. And don't forget to sign up for our bootcamp training. It's the perfect way to kickstart your journey and unlock even more perks. So what are you waiting for? Join the No More 9-to-5 Club today, and let's make those dreams a reality. I can't wait to see you on the inside. You only get one now. Invest it in your better future. Let's make magic happen together.
No More 9-to-5 Club. Let me tell you, this is a club for people who have purpose and passion and want to network with other people that have the same. Even if you have a 9-to-5 job, but you also have other things in your heart and your mind that you want to do, then you want to check out No More 9-to-5. It also includes masterminds and all kinds of trainings, opportunities to see ways of getting residual income, and it helps to boost your business. So if you're interested in going to the next level, then check out No More 9-to-5. And guess what? You can join for $1.11 for the first month just to get a feel for it. And contributions go to veterans. So they're not only helping you, but they're helping our veterans as well. So check out No More 9-to-5. I put the link in the comments, bit.ly/no more 9, the number 2, the number 5, VT. Check it out. All right. And we're back. Now, there was a point you were going to make.
Yeah. So when you're looking at mindfulness, I'm a big fan, first of all. And like I said, it's connected, in some ways, it's like a more oblique term for practices that derive from Buddhism, although the awareness practice in other traditions as well. But the thing about mindfulness is that kind of, well, there are different definitions, but I would say is that it has the word mind. So there's a level of it being sometimes a little more mental. And the word that I prefer and the term and the practice that I do, which is a big part of connection, is presence. And so for me, that has some different connotations. So there are kind of 5 aspects of that, which is like, 1, I'm being physically present. I'm in my body. And these days, being in your body and present is something that is a radical act. People don't want you to do that. They want you to scroll and to look at their ads and social media to keep going and to worry about things, versus let me just feel the sensations in my body. Let me be aware of that, which for a lot of people, we just want to check out and dissociate, part of that, the faint response I talked about. Emotionally connected, so that emotional presence, in my vulnerability, in my heart, do I let myself feel the pains of what is happening in my life and in the world, and not have to create a story around it necessarily. This is terrible, but literally feel the feelings and the sensations. Mental presence of really fully being there. So I think this is where it connects for me more with mindfulness, is directing our attention. And then energetic presence. So this is one of the ways that I help speakers develop a strong presence, is that I teach tools for how to grow your energy, which is, it allows people to just feel you. You don't have to say anything. You just walk into a room, people look at you and wonder, who is that? I think it was, 2008, I was at a campaign event for Obama when he was running for president for the first time. And so it was a big open space, and there was going to be a famous speaker there. And as we're waiting there, I suddenly just feel something. And I feel this presence right by me. And I turn and look, and walking right by me up to kind of the front of the room is Forrest Whitaker, and who was there to speak. And he was the main speaker. But he had this presence. Now, he both, of course, is a highly trained actor and has that presence, but he's also a longtime meditator. And so, which is my belief that combined, those are qualities that develop presence. Now, the 5th element is that we can grow awareness beyond just like me, even just beyond you and me, into just being able to hold this space. And so this awareness of the greater whole allows me to have a greater awareness and to hold the space, rather than kind of being victim to it in a way.
I love it. Greater hold. So let me ask you, someone may say, well, how do you develop that presence when you walk into the room, or you're even in a crowd, and there's just that magnetism?
Yeah. So let me just say is that, so there's an overlap here between professional skills that you're going to build, and also just how do we cope with life, with the intensity of life, and whatever crazy thing is happening in the news pretty much every day, and the news cycle, which wants to keep you hooked. I think it's the biggest soap opera in the world, is what's going to happen next? Oh gosh, what's the latest? Oh, someone did that. We should be outraged. And so it's, how do you just maintain presence amidst all of that, or things happening directly to you in your life? It's the same thing. So the way that I teach presence is the same way that I teach speaking skills. The error that most people make is they think that it's about knowing what to do when you go up there and on the stage or on a webinar and do it. It is not knowing what to do. It is having it embodied and having it become part of who you are. So for me, I use a performance training technique. So a performer has to learn skills a little bit at a time, and they practice. And so I know that most people in the world aren't going to do what an actor does and want to roll around on the floor for hours a day like I did in graduate school, and I'll do all the crazy sounds. So I simplified it. So I say, well, here are simple practices to do. And you just do it a little bit every day. It actually doubles as self-care. It brings more aliveness, more capacity to be able to handle what's happening, and it's building a professional skill set and our capacity to just show up more in our lives.
So what's that technique? What is it? How do
Well,
you?
so I call it's a series of micro techniques. And
Okay.
so it's a habit building methodology where you just do a couple of things. So for example, it could be one of the things I mentioned before of self-compassion. So the way that I teach it is twice a day, you do a set of practices, 5 or 10 minutes. Ideally, first thing in the morning and then at lunchtime. It could be a self-compassion and you kind of listen to a guided meditation or you guide yourself through it once you know it. One of the other things that I teach from the very beginning is deep relaxation. Is that really good speakers are going to be very, very relaxed. This is a quality needed for presence. It's also how you can have a far more resonant and powerful speaking voice. A lot of people don't like how their voice sounds. It's actually hard to self-assess because the placement of our mouth compared to our ears, people often think their voice isn't very good when that's not necessarily true. But if you get vocal strain, if your voice gets higher when you are nervous and speak, that's because of tension. So you can have a more powerful speaking voice through that relaxation. It's also the foundation for all body language, because when you try to do gestures and you're tense, it just looks weird. So I would say, so I teach like, here's how to relax. Here's how to show up every moment relaxed. And you do that throughout your day. And then we can layer other skill sets on top of that.
Beautiful. That's amazing. That's beautiful. And what you're doing, we're talking about not just techniques for speaking, but techniques to help transform your life through meditation, through breathing, through self awareness of your body, your emotions, your mind.
So I want to tie in what I just said to the topic of connection over protection.
Okay.
If we go back to what we talked about before the commercial, that the identity is a set of protection mechanisms that we use to navigate the world in order to feel some semblance of safety, then that will show up in your body as tension, as tightness, as maybe fight, flight, freeze, hiding, or maybe pleasing, or those things. And so instead, when we start to just be able to relax, to do some more stretches, to come into the body, to cultivate that level of presence, to open the heart even a little bit more, is that presence and that softness is also a kind of de-armoring, to take away some of those mechanisms that we've created that show up in our body. So nonverbal communication, this is a very powerful point that I don't really see people make in general. Nonverbal communication, which is 50 to 80% of communication, but it's not 93% if you've heard that. It's not true. It's a misinterpretation of a study, but it is 50 to 80%, derives from one of two things: from our internal experience and our habits, or from training. You might call internal experience and habits a kind of training, but not conscious training. And so that means that if I've had to tense up, or I've had trauma, or I'm worried and I have to close down, and I kind of learn to be like this, and this is a type of habit. And so when I learn to soften and to open and start to step in this level of presence, I am more available for connection.
Yes, I love it. I love it. That is amazing. You mentioned about we get so caught up in listening to the news and all the things that are going on in our society and the impact that it's having on our lives. And I know a lot of motivational speakers and people that are into the professional development or personal development field will tell you, stop watching the news, stop listening to that stuff. How do you feel about that?
So I kind of have a dual feel about that, is that it's easy to get in the habit of constantly watching the news and the news cycle, which is kind of like this search for safety. And you can think about it in terms of the nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is designed to see if things are safe. We look out there, we're constantly looking around, we're taking things in. Let me check the news, let me see. And so there's, I think, a drive with the craziness in the world to know, is it safe right now? What's the latest that's happening? And so there can be a great pull to just say, let me turn that off so that I can have control over my own state and over my own time. However, it comes at a cost, because then we can also be out of tune with what is happening, and to know if there is something that I actually need to do to take action. Usually I think it's learning about things that I have no power over or no control over and can do nothing about. So I'm just in a state of outrage and fear and more depression. So,
Right.
so instead, I think that it is good to limit, but still to know, and to maybe even schedule in, when am I going to be checking what's going on? Is that going to be once a day? Not constantly. And I fall prey to this as well. Like, it's very easy every day. So that I can look at that. But as I do that, you can do it as a spiritual practice. So when checking in, you can first, like, for example, get present. I can, like right now, a body scan is a very simple exercise. If you just like sit and take a deep breath, whoever's watching this or the recording, you just like feel your body and breathe and notice the sensations that are happening. Maybe there's tightness in the chest or somewhere else, or you have physical pain, or maybe something feels really good or parts are numbed out. And then check the news and keep doing the scan while you check the news. Start to become aware of the impact it has. But then also, honestly, it's important to have practices to be able to clear that out, to find center again, and not to just be in this state of alarm and fear or depression or anger.
Yes. And I have another commercial I need to play, and we will be right back. And then there's some other things that we're going to be talking about. So we'll be.
Mama Knows creates high quality products that are available to be used on multiple textures of hair. Her goal is to bridge the gap, to stop people from having to use multiple products because of families with multiple hair types. Her products are currently being used on men, women, children of all ethnicities. Mama Knows products are available at www.mamaknowsproducts.com. That's www.mamaknowsproducts.com. You can also find her on Instagram at Mama Knows Products, because Mama knows what you need.
Mama Knows products. Let me tell you, I use these products. They smell great. They work well. And we're talking shampoos, conditioners, moisturizers, hair serums, and just a number of items that will help you have more healthy hair. And it is a product that any ethnicity can use. Males, females, girls, boys. I'm telling you, these products are wonderful. So you need to check out Mama Knows products. Why? Because Mama knows what you need. So check her out. All right. All right. Now, let's come back to some of the things that you and I had talked about. Oh, before, I didn't realize you were a poet, and I should have read the bio sooner. But anyway, do you have a poem that you can share with us?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on a minute. Let me take this banner down, and I'm going to give you the floor.
Right. And after that, I want to come back to connection and protection and tie that into what's happening politically as well.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. So this is a poem called Your Roar is Required. Dear sensitive souls, dear introverts and empaths, dear secret bearers of burden, dear wearers of brave faces, dear you who forced yourselves to smile and speak, dear you who hide and peek past curtains, dear social media lurkers, dear ambitious aspirants and starry-eyed seekers, Your roar is required. Your vociferous voice is valued. Your potent presence is petitioned. You do not need to be certain. You do not have to be loud. You need not bellow over the blatherings of bosses and bullies. We simply ask for your heart and your courage, your vulnerability and your strength, your love and your fire to open further toward their fullness, to be with us, to share your roar, not deafening. Speak to us from your soul, voluminous in presence and resonance. Change me. Let me feel your voice. Bear witness to your light. Be illuminated by your brilliance. And as you progress on your path, vibrantly speaking your way into radiance, you inspire my wholeness too. Thank you for your sacred lion thunder.
Woo! Woo! Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm so glad I asked you to share a poem. Oh my God. Your roar is required. And right now, your roar, it's hard for me to say, is required. All right.
Well, thanks. I always love sharing poetry, so thanks for the invitation.
Yes.
So I've been writing since I was 12 or 13, I think.
Yes, that's when I started writing as well. And I started writing because it was my way of encouraging myself. It was my way of being able to express because I became a rather introverted person with all the negativity that I was hearing about me and being afraid to really say a whole lot because I didn't know what the reaction would be. And so I just started writing. And I've been writing since about the same age, actually. Um, and so, what made you decide to start writing?
Things wanted to be written.
I love it.
Very much so, like things wanted to come through. And they still do.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So,
You're a beautiful soul. Let me tell you. Okay. Now, there were some things you wanted to talk about.
so if we talk about, I think that it would be remiss to talk all about connection and protection without talking about the craziness in the world. Now, this is true in the U.S., certainly with the political divide, but I was on a call this morning with someone from Berlin talking, just as much as Europe as we've seen in France, and like with right wing coming in and people feeling threatened by that on both sides. And I think in all cases politically, we can just say even just here in the US, is that both sides think that the other side is evil. And if the other side wins, it's going to be the end of the country. Both sides think that, which is fascinating. So if we first contextualize this within fight, flight, or freeze, that people are having trauma responses, and that at fighting, that kind of saying, oh, well, you can't do this, and that type of vicious attacks that happen being fight. Other people are just freezing, others are checking out and dissociating, or just maybe just not posting about it and fleeing because it's too controversial. Can't even talk about that. And all of these things you can think of also as a type of protection mechanisms. How do I find some level of safety either right now or in the future? And the problem that I see is that because people are under threat, because we are constantly feeling threatened by the other, that the other is wrong, that they're evil, in a way we also dehumanize them. And we forget that they are human and vice versa, and seeing each other as the enemy. And what happens a lot of the time with connection is people think that the other person is going to have, I can be in safety, I can be safe with them if we share a common belief, if we have the same interest, maybe if we have the same color skin or religion or look like each other. And I think that is not true ultimately. And that's the problem, is that we think that we can connect with them and find safety if we have one of those things in common. And instead, we need to step out of that into simply being humans together, understanding that whoever it is that you are afraid of or angry at, and who may feel that with you, is that we may forget that they're afraid of dying, most likely, that they've experienced incredible loss, that they've had joy and pain and skin problems and health issues, and that they have issues with their parents. And what does it mean to just come back to the human experience, to be able to have the level of care, of respect? So that for me is crucial, to decide and make a very radical choice, that although it doesn't mean you shouldn't, take a stand for what is important to you, and to abdicate that either, but can we begin from the place of I am a human and so are you, and how do we start from there, and how does that take us forward?
And you know what? That's where we've got to go. That's where we've got to go, because if we don't, we're going to implode. We're going to just implode. We cannot continue on this trajectory where there's all this dissension and hate and uh, I'm
Right.
feeling kind of heavy right now because this is serious. We have got to come together. It's not about skin color. It's not about anything other than the fact that we are all human. We all feel, we all have experienced everything that you just mentioned. We've all experienced pain, joy, suffering in one way or the other. Everybody has. And so we've got to look at the commonalities that we have. And that commonality is we are human.
And it's also then getting out of the box of how we think, who we think people are. And so I look at this as the difference between subject and object. So usually we, like, for oneself is the only true subject. It's a subjective experience. And we can easily objectify other people into, this is who they are by their skin color, by their age, by different factors, by things they know about them. And we make them an object instead of a living being that's having an experience and capable of change. And so this subject to subject experience is, for me, best created by stepping into presence. And also by changing the prompts. So I do this when I lead connection events, is we change the type of questions that we ask. But first, we start off by finding a level of presence. So could I just do something right now as an exercise?
Sure.
All
You
right.
can.
So this will be a very short, simple version of what I
And
do.
I'm going to do it with you.
So if you first just take some breaths into your body. Hopefully right now, from what we just talked about, you might feel a little bit activated, which is good because it gives you sensation to work with. It's not bad, just in sensation. And so as you breathe your body, you can see, is there some sort of activation? How is your heart beating fast or slowly? Can you just do a scan from your feet up to your head? Notice places that you feel more sensation. Feelings are both physical and emotional, so any counts. And then perhaps put your hand on your heart with a sense of self-care and self-awareness, saying to yourself, I'm here for you. I'm not going to abandon you. I will not leave you. And from this place of feeling your heart and your body, imagine that you can just send some roots into the earth as if you were a tree. And you might visualize either cords or roots that kind of go down your legs from your bottom of your spine, out your feet, Could even go straight out of your coccyx, your tailbone, into the earth. You can kind of just exhale and visualize that you send roots down into the earth. If that's new for you, just try it. You can always throw it away later, but we don't know unless we try.
Absolutely.
And then,
Absolutely.
so we root down. You can even imagine that you kind of breathing up the energy of the earth. And so we perhaps keep that hand on the heart, feeling our body. We're connected with our earth. And then visualize that you can connect with something greater. And that could be religion or spiritual, or you can just imagine the sky above you, the big, wide open sky. And that, imagine that you can connect with that. If we can kind of almost breathe that in through our heads, down into our bodies. That we are connected with the earth, with something greater, with ourselves. And then we set an intention, and our intentions have to be set based on your values. Values are usually more in some degree of, I love this. This is what I care about. So maybe the intention is, I'm going to give it a try. Or I want to have more love, even if things feel really painful and scary. Even a little bit. So from this place of connecting with ourselves and the earth and something greater, and bringing in some level of awareness of intention, we can move from that place into connecting with others, into curiosity. So if your eyes are closed, we can open them. And then if we look with a level of curiosity, like, who is this person really? I wonder what it's like to be them. What have they gone through that I have no idea about? What are their secrets that they're too ashamed to speak? And with this type of cultivating curiosity, we start to reclaim some humanity. And we be able to then create more intentional, impacted engagement that can take us beyond that default protection. And even if we slip into it, we can come back and say, this is hard, and I'm going to choose it still.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Audience, those of you who will hear the replay of this, I'm telling you, we've got to connect. Choosing connection over protection. That is the solution to the problems that's not only facing our country, but it's facing our world, it's facing our families. Connection, choosing connection. And the first way to do that is to do what we just did here with Jonathan. And I do hope as you listen to this in the future that you embrace what it is that we've said, that you embrace the actions that we've just displayed here. I have another commercial, and then we will, I can't believe this time has gone so fast, and then we'll wrap up. But let me play this right quick.
In a world where authenticity is the key, unlock your brand's potential with ADM's game-changing marketing solutions. We craft striking logos that embody your brand's spirit and build websites that captivate and convert. Our lead generation strategies are tailored to your needs, driving growth and boosting your bottom line. And our content, well, it's not just content. It's a narrative, a story that connects and resonates with your audience. But here at ADM, we're about more than just exceptional services. We're about authenticity, about staying true to who you are and what you stand for, because realness, that's what makes a brand unforgettable. So if you're ready to elevate your brand with authenticity and excellence, follow this page. Dive deeper into the world of divine marketing and become part of our community. Because at ADM, we're not just about making brands, we're about making brands matter.
And that was so appropriate for what we just did. ADM, authentic divine marketing. Let me tell you, Ariel Chime, she is authentic and she uses what it is that you want to help project your authenticity through the videos and the marketing that she does for you. So check out Authentic Divine Marketing. Go to bit.ly/divine chime. All right. I had another commercial or another thing that I just want to share with our audience that on July 26th, I will be doing a premiere of the Mastermind for Fathers called Nurturing Relationships, Strengthening Bonds. And I've ran out of time, so I'm just going to put the link where you can pick up a gift and also register. And you can register online. And I'm excited because I will also be doing a hybrid and doing it live for fathers in Ohio. So I'm excited about that. And so go to bit.ly/ideas for fathers and get your gift and register for July 26th, 11 to 12:30, and come and look because fathers are so needed in our world today. Fathers are so needed. Their children need you. And I know there's some good fathers out there, fantastic fathers out there. And this particular mastermind is just going to pull out what you already have and provide you with some tools that you may not have thought about. So join me on July 26th. All right. Now, you know what? We're running out of time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you the floor to just kind of end this for us today. And this has been just thank you for being here. And I'm going to give you give you the floor.
Sure, I'll just make a closing thing, which is that if we want to have greater connection, we have to start with greater presence. That's what interconnection is. It's being more present to ourselves and then be able to be more present for others beyond the mind, beyond our stories, beyond our fears, beyond the trauma and the fight and fight freeze responses and so on. And presence is a radical act. It is, in a way, counterculture. It is against what capitalism wants you to do and not to buy things. And so I encourage you to find that presence and connection so that you can really start to make a difference in the world and people will feel it.
Amen. Well, listen, thank you so much. And if you will hold on for a few minutes while I close us out. Listen, audience, thank you so much for being here. God bless you. And keep in mind mindfulness and that connection, choosing connection over protection. God bless you. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday.
The Vera Show.